Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Jim Comer, Dr. Bob Choat, and Dr. Wayne Buckhanan. And I want to ask the question, how do you tell the difference between a good idea and a bad idea? Dr. Wayne, can you kick us off?
If we're going with the problem-solving direction, then I personally think that there are obviously criteria for whether it solves the problem or not, but whether it's good or bad, I kind of treat all ideas as tentatively valuable, independent of whether they actually end up solving the problem or not, because they're a great leaping off point for something else.
Yep, I fully agree with that. How many of you remember the app Bourbon? It's a geo-tracking kind of app. It had pictures you can also post and everything like that. And so the founders had launched Bourbon, and people didn't like it except for one feature on it, just one feature. So it really wasn't a good idea because it had everything, like all kinds of the bells and whistles. So the founders ended up scrapping that app called Bourbon. They looked at that one feature, which was like posting pictures, and then they rebuilt the app and they called a new name. Can you guess what the name is?
Scotch.
Instagram. Yes. Yes. They ended up selling it for, I believe it was $1 billion. And that was like 18 months later. I think we have to go look at ideas and maybe even extrapolate and find out what people really want instead of what we think they want. Because when I was running my advertising and marketing, I would do split testing on the ad, just on the headline. And what I thought was good, what I thought was a winner, turned out to be a loser. So yeah, so we have to look at what people really want.
Yeah, well, Dr. Bob has got a big idea. I'm going to go down to take it to a more daily, everyday way. When I get an idea, say just something I want to do, I try to test it on friends and valued colleagues, people who I really respect. And after we talk about it and discuss it, if they like it, that gives me a lot more confidence and validation to move forward with it. However, sometimes that doesn't work. For example, last summer, I got the idea of going with some friends on a vision quest on a mountain in southern Colorado at 9,000 feet. Now, I have never been camping. This was going to be 9,000 feet, 3 days, fasting, alone. And all of my friends that I talked to about, every single one of them thought it was absolutely crazy. Someone thought I wasn't going to live through it. But I just believed in the idea. So I went against my friend's advice and I went on the quest. It was the best thing that I have done in years. And it reverberates within me ever since. So sometimes, even when your friends say one thing, you got to trust your gut.
And that's a tough thing when it comes to ideas, good ideas, bad ideas, is how do you tell the difference between your gut going, this is a horrible idea, do not do it, and your gut going, I am scared of this and I don't know if I can or want to do it.
And both of those things were going with me last summer. I thought it was a good idea because my friends that ran the Vision Quest told me that people often had powerful spiritual experiences on there, which turned out to be true. But my practical side was saying, you've never been camping, you could die, so the two were.
So I heard that an idea can both be a good idea and a bad idea at the exact same time.
Yeah, that's true.
And so then how do you decide if you move forward? Do you do you let the good part of it weigh out and just go with it? Or do you say, maybe this isn't the wisest thing I've ever done in the world?
I remember when I was back in the Marines and going through jump school, then free fall jump school, which is HALO, so high altitude low opening. But it was in the context of a goal and a mission that I was on. And a lot of people thought that was crazy. You're jumping out at 35,000 feet and free falling down. But it was in the context of what was a goal that this was going to do.
Mm.
And did it fit with my own mission? So like on a personal basis, I had a mission, and then the mission of the team. So this was in that. Outside of, I think same thing in business and others. So there's always a purpose of doing something. If it doesn't fit with a purpose, then it may not be good.
Is that the way to tell a good idea from a bad idea before you can look back at it? Does it fit your purpose? And then whether it ends up being good or bad, it is at least data?
I was going a different direction, taking both of these gents' examples. I'm going, yeah, what changed what sounds in one person's vision as a bad idea into something that can be a good idea to me was managed risk. Right? In both of those examples, you're not just doing something ridiculous, jumping out of a plane. Sounds on the surface ridiculous no matter what. But you've managed that risk with equipment, with training, with support, with, right? Same thing, I'm assuming, Jim, you didn't just climb the mountain by yourself. So there is some amount of that managing the risk and taking something that could be a bad idea to at least make it not bad, maybe at least neutral, and maybe even good.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what you said on managed risk, because going back to jumping, so in the Marines, we were very, 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 very strict and disciplined. The people who packed our chutes, they were very good at what they did. I did a civilian jump, and it was just the opposite. I will never do another civilian free fall ever again, because they're lousy. It was completely lousy, and it was very, very risky compared to the military. So, yeah.
You just talked me out of the skydiving that I had been talking about on my bucket list. So one of the things that I value as far as good idea versus bad idea is the shelf life of the idea. If I come up with something, say on a Monday, I'm really excited about it. And I've got to see how that idea lasts as time goes by. How is it a week or a month later? For example, I've been talking forever about doing stand-up comedy. I'm a speaker. I like speaking. I love doing it. But somehow, even though I write comedy, getting up and doing it scares me. However, I took a class last summer. I've got 5 minutes of material, and it's been 6 months since I've had the material and I haven't done it. But next week, I am going to get up at an open mic night and do it. And even though it terrifies me, on the one hand, the idea has lasted. It had real staying power, and it really is something I want to do. So I'm going to swallow my fear next week and get up for 4 minutes at an open mic night and give it a try. Now, I will have to reassess this idea when I get off stage.
Look back at it, decide if it was a good idea or a bad idea at that point. Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that preparation is part of what makes either a good idea or a bad idea. Are you prepared to actually engage in the idea in some reasonable fashion? And then, does it have staying power? Is this an idea that you really want to try, and is it staying with you? And then the risk assessment of it, I think, is something else that we're talking about. So I hate the fact that there's no solid answer, like this is how you tell if an idea is good or bad. There's because I hate the fact that I look back and I'm like, that was a bad idea. I wish I'd known that before I started it.
That is the human condition, though, isn't it? We just don't always know, which is what makes it sometimes exciting and sometimes devastating.
Yeah. And I can recall going back now 13 years when I started doing parkour. People thought, you want to do parkour at your age? And I still do it. I'm 70 years old and I do parkour now. But I tell them, it's like anything else. The training, the foundation that I built prior to that was very important. I'm not going to jump off of buildings until I know my body is ready for it. I learned that you need a focus is very important in terms of parkour or anything else. I had to prepare myself to build that foundation. And now what was hard for me back then is easy. So I'm always looking for that next challenge. and everything. So, yeah,
That
so
is our
Jim,
10 minutes. So I'm going to have to cut us off there. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I do not think it was a bad idea. I look forward to talking to you all again very soon.